Siren, having a bout of insomnia, is lying awake in bed when she hears a heated argument in progress right outside of her closed door. She thinks it could be her recurring dream. She slowly and carefully gets out of bed and quietly creeps to the door to eavesdrop.
I really need your help. Why aren't you helping me? Don't you know about Pearl?
No one can help you.
Yes, I'm so scared.
No one can help you now, Siren. Not anymore.
Pearl stands up and walks away. Siren listens until she hears nothing, then cracks the door open and peeks out into the empty hall. She sees the door of the room located diagonally across from her slightly ajar, and hears the argument continuing within that room's mother quarters, which is a room within a room at the back. She steps through the doorway of the first room and the conversation gets louder. She continues on to the door of the mother's quarters and quietly looks in. Pearl is seated on the lone middle section of an old tan antique sectional
No one can help you now,
that's
Siren.
situated against the wall, arguing with herself. With each change of her voice, her face also changes to express either innocence or malevolence.
That's not right.
Don't talk to me like that, Siren, after all I've done for you. Now you sound like Mel.
Please. Pearl, I don't want to die. I don't want to die.
I'm gonna hack you into pieces. I'm gonna hack you into pieces and feed you to tripod.
My body. I don't know.
Pearl stops in mid-sentence, seeing Siren standing in the doorway, and immediately changes back to her normal voice and sweet disposition.
Siren, honey, why are you out of bed? You know you're running a fever.
She stands up, walks over to Siren, lovingly puts her hand on her shoulder, and escorts her back to her bedroom. Pearl tucks Siren into bed. She stands in the doorway with a crazy smile on her face and glassy eyes.
Good night, sweet prince.
She closes the door. Siren is clutching the covers, paralyzed with fear. She doesn't sleep a wink. It's dusk. A strange house at 1812 Simon Street is deserted. The backyard has astroturf, a 3-foot above-ground pool, lawn chairs, a covered hot tub in the corner, some pink lawn flamingos, weather-beaten gnomes, and a trampoline. Pearl is lying on the trampoline, alone, holding a camcorder to her face.
In your humble hypothesis, as I lie here and opinionate about a few things, namely coffee and numerals. Now, the Muslims have been uber generous to us these days. For example, in 875 BCE, before Common Era, before Christ existed, they took a trip to Wisconsin and gave us coffee and numerals as a token of their everlasting beneficence. Even made a little gambit into the Book of Mormon, I think.
Pearl stands up and does a front flip. Breathless, she lies back down on the trampoline.
So, let's get down to brass tacks, shall we? What I want to opinionate about is coffee and numerals. Now, what was the better gift?
She passionately pumps her fists in the air, like tennis great and all-around asshole John McEnroe.
Coffee or giving us Arabic numerals, or to speak apophatically, not using Roman numerals. What say ye?
She pauses and waits for an answer from the voices in her head, I guess.
Okay. I see what you're saying, but now hear me out, cause contrary-wise, speaking as El Diablo's advocate, I think coffee changed the world, hallelujah. Cause if I have a hot, steaming, 6-inch coiled, large creamed, overpriced cup of delicious black brew, I could do Roman numerals all day long, amen? So, in sum, coffee is the cock of the walk, and Arabic numerals are gonna have to just kiss the cook. Over and out. This is Pearl Artemis Goodman, signing off. Peace.
Pearl throws up a sustained peace sign for the camera and waits for the camcorder's battery to die.
2%? What the F?
Pearl continues waiting, still holding her pointer and middle fingers up.
1%. Gosh, this is crazy. Absolutely understand. My fingers are cramping up.
Finally, the battery dies and she climbs down from the trampoline. She meticulously dusts herself off and goes through the sliding glass door into the house. She walks straight into the kitchen, opens the fridge, grabs an industrial-sized jar of mayonnaise. Then she slams the fridge door as hard as she can, knocking all of the magnetized photos onto the floor with a crash. She walks into the living room, sits down on the couch, turns the TV on to white noise, sets the remote down, and then shoves her entire fist into the jar and pulls out a handful of mayo and begins scarfing it down. As Pearl sits eating ravenously, there are body parts strewn about the living room. The entire family of that residence has been utterly mutilated and dismembered. A car horn loudly honks outside. Pearl strolls to the kitchen and washes her hands, notices her reflection in the microwave, and coquettishly laughs at all the mayo on her face.
Oh, Gilbert, I'll heart you.
Pearl grabs a cute hand towel from the oven bar and wipes the mayo from her mouth. She walks outside to where the taxi cab is idling, waiting. The same one she rode over in. The taxi driver, Terrence, is a bodybuilder, and he's annoyed that Pearl wasn't already waiting outside for his return. He begins ranting at Pearl as she opens the back door, which progresses from general griping to a profound self-revelation.
Broads like you wreak havoc on my schedule, you know that? I've been out here waiting in the hot sun for God knows how long, and my AC went out this morning, and I'm chafing like a bastard. You know what else I've realised? Getting paid by the mile is utter bullshit!
Steroids are killer on the morale.
He snarls disgustedly at Pearl in the rearview mirror and takes off with a sudden push on the accelerator. Pearl's neck whiplashes a little as her head bumps into the back window. As the car barrels down the road, Pearl neatly reaches into her purse and pulls out a mixtape that's labeled Good Music, featuring Charlene, aka Chuck, and extends her arm to where the cassette is only a couple of centimeters from Terrence's right ear. He flinches and looks over his shoulder.
Huh? Oh, what the hell? Get your hand away from there now. What in the bleeding shite is this bullshit?
If you look at the title instead of cursing at your consumers, you know, young man.
The cabbie pops the tape into the stereo and music begins screaming through the speakers.
When the trumpet at the law shall
Pearl
say,
grins, claps girlishly, and sings along with the music.
When the trumpet at the law shall say, when time shall be no more. And the morning breaks, turn around.
I'm not listening to this Garbaggio. Sorry, mate.
Now hold on a minute. If that isn't to your liking, I got something else that might throttle your vein.
As he motions to eject the cassette, he feels her hand next to his ear again. He thinks nothing of it, when all of a sudden there's a sharp tug on his throat and his whole body is pulled forcefully back against the seat. In shock, he immediately reaches his hands up towards his neck to remove the wire that is strangling him. Pearl starts singing along with the tape again while he's asphyxiated. His feet are kicking rapidly, and with no hands on the steering wheel, the speeding car begins to veer off the road. The vehicle hits a roadside ditch and flips over.
Pearl, listen to this bass. It's called
Then slides for 20 feet and comes to a screeching halt. Pearl unbuckles her seatbelt and climbs out of the back seat. She reaches into the window and grabs her shoe that had come off in the accident. She slips the shoe on, brushes the dirt and debris off her dress, straightens her lopsided wig, and begins giggling as she leans over into the driver's side window and gazes at the taxi driver as he's bleeding out.
All yous had to do was be polite. Hun, crack is whack.
Pearl ejects the cassette tape and walks home. The next morning at dawn, Siren is still awake. She realizes the supposedly recurring dream was never really a dream at all.
I never went back to sleep. The recurring dream was never really a dream.
Siren gets out of her bed and walks downstairs. Pearl's bedroom door is open. Her bedside table lamp is on and the radio is softly playing children's songs.
Apples and bananas. I like to eat apples and bananas. I like to eat apples and bananas.
Siren goes down the hallway to the front door and sees that Pearl's car is gone. She heads into the dining area and finds an ornate envelope on the table with a wax seal that has a signet ring in print. On the outside, written in black magic marker and in all caps, is the word Siren. Siren breaks the seal and removes a tri-folded typed letter.
6th of June, 2006. My dear Siren, you're out of bed right now reading this note. Shame on you, young lady. You still have a fever and should be in bed right now. But anywho, if you're reading this, naughty girl. This afternoon, God woke me up with an audible voice saying, 1812 Simon Street. 1812 Simon Street. So needless to say, I'll be running a few errands at 1812 Simon Street. I'll be back tomorrow by lunchtime.
Handwritten signature with a quilt pen.
In my grip, Pearl, Artemis, Goodman.
Siren sets the note down, not understanding what half of the note even said, being hardly able to read. She only made out bits and pieces of meaning, something about Simon Street and lunchtime. She hurries through the washroom and out back to find Tripod. Siren finds him resting near his baseball. Upon seeing her, Tripod clutches the baseball in his teeth and playfully trots over to Siren so they can play fetch.
Not now, Tripod. Pearl's scary.
Siren throws the ball simply to get rid of it, and Tripod instinctively runs after it and fetches the ball, quickly bringing it back.
I said no, Tripod. We gotta go now.
Siren just drops the ball at her feet so Tripod will stop fetching it. But Tripod picks it back up, still trying to play. Siren takes the slobbery ball from his mouth, and to get rid of it once and for all, throws it as hard as she can. The ball goes crashing through one of the windows of the outbuilding. Tripod barks and runs after it. He leaps up on some crates and barrels and jumps through the broken window to attempt to retrieve the wayward baseball.
No, Tripod.
She hurries after him to the front of the building. The padlock is conveniently unlocked, so she pulls open the big, heavy door and hears Tripod in the back room barking relentlessly at something. Once inside, Siren sees a hanging light bulb shining from the back room where Tripod continues to bark. Seeing through the wide-open doorway, she notices that a TV set is on, but it's only showing staticky white noise. She walks into the back room to fetch Tripod and surprisingly beholds the object of Tripod's incessant barking. A man in his 60s. He's a quadruple amputee, with a pockmarked face, a bulbous and slightly crooked nose, lips that have been sewn shut with twine, only leaving a small opening in the center where he can be fed liquids via a straw or funnel, from which he is drooling profusely. He is adorned with a hot pink jerry curl mullet combination wig, with rainbow-colored curly Q sideburns, brony style. He's seated on an antique armchair, mindlessly staring at the TV set with bulging eyes and dully blinking eyelids. His mechanic overalls are decorated with rainbow-colored markers and pony screen prints. Siren wets herself in fright. She slowly backpedals through the doorway into the main part of the outbuilding. Tripod continues barking at the man. Siren hears something behind her.
Well, now, I should have guessed as much.
Siren turns and sees Pearl standing a couple of feet within the main entryway of the outbuilding.
Of all the people Mel would screw around with, Siren, why did it have to be you? How long you two been seeing each other?
Siren stands perplexed, not understanding what she is saying, as Pearl slowly walks towards Siren.
Now you know too much, honey. Sorry things turned out this way, and I thought of you as a daughter. Ungrateful bitch.
Siren screams, and now begins backpedaling away from Pearl until the broken window is directly behind her. Tripod joins her after he hears the scream and barks at Pearl. Siren picks Tripod up and quickly glances at the opening behind her. With the dog in her arms, she tries to climb up the boxes and debris to escape. For reasons unknown, Tripod latches a hold of Siren's right lip again and pulls. Blood pours out of the reopened wound. At the same time, Pearl clutches Siren's right shoulder. When she does this, Tripod lets go of Siren's face and nips Pearl's hand, causing her to recoil for a moment.
You little dog. Get gone.
Oh, so now you even turned little sweet Tripod against me.
Siren feels a dull thud on the back of her head as she hears Tripod yelping. The blood pours from her mouth. She's knocked unconscious. Siren wakes up in her bed, lightheaded and groggy. She reaches back and touches her head, where there's a contusion, and grimaces in pain at the huge swollen knot that has formed.
Ow.
Immediately, she hears footsteps pounding up the stairs, the floorboards creaking irregularly in the hallway, and the jingling of keys as her door is being unlocked. Guess, folks, she had been locked in. Pearl peeks her head in with a completely fake persona.
You sleepwalked into the outbuilding this morning? And Melvin, do you remember?
I remember.
Pearl walks closer to the bed.
Because you slept with Melvin. You slut.
Pearl reluctantly composes herself.
But God says to always forgive. Forgiveness is the road to heaven, and I will not let something like this shake that.
Pearl hugs Siren and kisses her on the forehead, leaving a big lipstick mark.
Two wrongs don't make a right. She'll be young, foolish.
Can I go home now?
Shut your mayo hole. Well, we'll see. Now, did you have a dream last night? Didn't you? Nod your head yes or no.
Siren, genuinely afraid for her safety, nods her head yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Satisfied, Pearl smiles.
Okay, sweetie. Just a couple more hours and it'll be time for lunch. Debbie's gonna be here.
Pearl has an implacable face expression.
Don't say a word about your dreams to her. And I know this may be too soon, but Siren, I love you.
Pearl winks at Siren and then stares hard, waiting for her to say it back, and then begins crazy staring as if she's mentally checked out, almost unconscious. Then she blinks once as if reorienting herself to her environment, and silently walks out of the room. After a moment, when it seems that Pearl has gone back downstairs, Siren gets out of bed and opens the door to leave. She quietly walks down the upstairs hallway and then tiptoes as she descends the separate top 3 steps of the staircase that lead to the small landing area, before curving to the right and connecting with the main staircase. As her feet touch the landing, Siren is at once standing eye to eye with Pearl, who is just spaced out and staring straight ahead in the middle of the staircase, unmoving. Pearl comes to and angrily acknowledges Siren's presence.
Why are you out of your room?
I...
You aren't well. You shouldn't be here. You know well you should be in bed. Come on, let's go. Back to your room.
Siren turns around and heads back upstairs. Pearl periodically shoves Siren's back as they return to the bedroom, and then finally pushes her hard into the room and locks the door. Pearl heads back downstairs. Siren cries to herself for a long time. Then she hears Pearl and Debbie loudly laughing, and Tripod excitedly barking downstairs in the dining area as they're having their lunch date. Pearl never returns to get Siren, so she goes hungry. Hours pass into early evening. Siren is lying on her bed, watching the tape of Pearl singing, as a VHS tape slides under the door. On it is a hastily scribbled note that reads, "Watch me." Siren pops the tape into the VCR and presses play. White noise skips and jumps, and fades out and shows the interior of the outbuilding. A younger Pearl can be seen lecturing someone lying on the work table, wearing just a pair of whitey tighties.
Mel, it's all your fault this is happening. God said it's better for your physical body to be destroyed in order for your soul to be saved. This is for your own good and mine.
Pearl comes further into frame, wielding a battery-operated turkey carver. She turns it on and the blade springs to life. Melvin is terrified and sweating profusely.
Pearl, don't you do this. Honey, we can talk this over. You know I never messed around on you. I love you. I swear I never touched them. Put that thing down now.
You can't thwart the hand of God. His will be done. I am trying to save your soul, hun. You're so infatuated with the flesh. It's always the flesh with you, Melvin.
Pearl, no. Pearl, no. No. Pearl, no.
Pearl puts a wadded sock into his mouth and duct tapes it in. She walks over to a cassette player and presses play. She places the blade of the turkey carver against his right shoulder and presses down firmly against his arm. Blood immediately sprays up and splatters his face and clothes. Siren, horror-stricken, passes out. The tape continues to play. Melvin is screaming hysterically, but the sounds are muffled because of the gag in his mouth. The carver grinds to a halt as it hits bone. Melvin begins vomiting, so Pearl rips the tape off his face and yanks the sock out. Melvin lets out a long, sustained scream and howl of pain. He cries in anguish for Pearl to stop, but Pearl seems upset at him for even suggesting that she stop. His eternal soul is in the balance.
Your eternal soul is in the balance.
She turns the cassette player up louder, then walks over to some hanging tools. From off the wall, she grabs a large hacksaw and goes back over to the table. As Pearl places the saw blade in the gaping wound and sets it against the bone, she makes a kissing gesture at him and begins manually sawing through the raw bone.
Crazy bitch!
Melvin gurgles and spits blood as he gnaws through his tongue. She rolls her eyes, dabs up the blood from his mouth with a white towel, and tilts his head to the side. Pearl resumes her task and eventually fatigues herself halfway through sawing the bone. So she uses a leather belt as a tourniquet, ties it around the wounded shoulder, sets the saw down, goes over to an antique refrigerator, pours a tall glass of ice water from a pitcher, sits down on a folding chair, and slowly sips the water meditatively. She occasionally uses her apron to wipe sweat and Melvin's blood off her face.
Oh, this song makes me thirsty.
After her break, she finishes cutting through the arm with a hacksaw and carver. Melvin passes out. She walks over to a welding torch and fires it up. She wheels the apparatus to the table and alternates between burning Melvin's open wound and patting it down with a cool cloth. A cycle of burn, cloth, burn, cloth, burn, cloth to cauterize his wound.
You won't be bleeding out on my watch. Not today, Zerg.
She heats a steel doorknob with the torch for about 5 minutes and places it in Melvin's mouth against where his tongue used to be. Winded, she walks over to the VHS recorder and flips the machine off. The video blips and cuts to Pearl in mid-sentence of another diary entry. She is seated in front of Melvin, who's still lying on the table in the background.
Evermore. Not much else to say on that subject, but he deserved it. They always do in the end. Day 2 of 3.
Pearl laughs maniacally to herself, then gets eerily calm and stares into the camera.
Well, Rome wasn't built in a day.
She walks over to a time clock and punches in with her personalized time card. Her name is written in glittery ink and decorated with hearts. Melvin is in a stupor with his eyes closed. She flips the cassette over and the same song screams through the speakers. Melvin opens his eyes as Pearl walks towards him with the electric turkey carver.
Please, Pearl, no!
Me. I would if I could, sweetheart. But despite the evil you brought upon our family, I still truly love you. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. I, however, aim to come through. It's you and me, babe. Till death do us part.
She puts the sock back into his mouth and carves through his left arm with more ease than the right limb from yesterday. But all of a sudden, the batteries die. A little flustered, she gets up and goes to the tool cabinet and fishes out 2 loose AA batteries. She puts them in and continues to cut through his arm. The batteries quickly die again. In frustration, she throws the batteries against the wall and mumbles under her breath.
Sorry you had to hear that.
She gets 2 more out of a different drawer of the aforementioned tool cabinet. She has hope because these ones were still in the partially open manufacturer's package. She sighs loudly and attempts to remove his left arm for the 3rd time. She finally succeeds and hits bone. She takes up the hacksaw to further her task. And after a brief moment of vigorous labor, the hacksaw breaks in her hands, cutting her finger. She winces in intolerable pain and anger.
Oh, good God! Things you do for love.
She throws the broken hacksaw hard on the ground and quickly rushes to a first aid kit atop the workstation. She splurts half a tube of ointment onto her finger and applies a bandage.
First batteries die, then they die again, then the saw blade breaks. This dadgum arm just don't want to go. I have to move heaven and earth just to take this bad boy.
She takes a hatchet from the pegboard and with renewed gusto, finally finishes the job. She ritually cauterizes the wound, powers down the stereo, and then lethargically shuffles over to the time clock and punches out after her hard day of work. Pearl checks her hours with a grin.
I'm gonna get time and a half for this week.
She shuts off the camcorder. This time the video seamlessly transitions to day 3. It's an extreme close-up shot of just Pearl's smiling face. She realizes she's too close and backs up a bit.
A nail for the leg. Praise God.
She nudges Melvin's torso. He's delirious and groans softly. She simply detaches his right leg. It's a prosthetic leg from a hiking expedition gone wrong earlier in life.
Jesus did the work for me on this one.
Glory to him.
She pretends the leg is a dance partner and she sways and twirls with it.
I am 16, going on 17. Maybe it's time for more. I don't know where the rest of the song goes, but I saw a movie once. I did my mind older and wiser, and I don't know what to do. That's not okay. That's not okay at all. He said, oh yeah. Maybe those feminists had a point.
She sets the leg down and picks up a handheld circular saw, sans blade protector. She tries to cheer up and motivate Melvin.
Be strong. Don't lose heart, baby cakes. Because that's in your chest. I'm not cutting that yet.
She hits play on the small portable stereo, and the music picks up from where it left off yesterday. She presses the trigger and sets the blade against his pelvis and hip joint. In mere seconds, it cuts right through the bone. Only the girth of the thigh prevents the saw from going in deeper. She separates his leg flesh with her hands, freeing the saw to continue deeper. Blood splatters everywhere and causes Pearl's hands to slip on the saw hem, nearly cutting Melvin's stomach open. She regains control over the saw and finishes the job. She unplugs the saw from the electrical outlet, cauterizes the stump, and turns off the camera. The VHS tape cuts again, and it's Pearl at her current age, seated in an abnormally proper posture on the side of her bed. She has an unusual amount of baby powder on her face and stares directly into the camera. After a few moments of silence, Pearl nods like she's taking a cue and speaks.
I hope you understand what you just saw, Siren. It was the Lord's bidding. Mel is a fornicator. You'll be meeting the other two women I've caught him with soon enough.
Pearl momentarily looks to the right.
I do need to change the oil in this car, and the cucumbers, they're thirsty. I need to waster them. I hope you enjoyed that. Is to say, I hope our time together hasn't been a waste in your eyes.
Pearl looks back to the camera.
I just want you to see that you won't be the only one punished for fornicating. Not like Mel, though. He got the cut poured out without mingle. Mel was a predator, and so he got the burnt end of the wrath. But you were his predation. And so, you will ergo just get a slap on the wrist, so to speak. Predaration. Vegetation. I strongly ought to get to those cucumbers and snapdragons. But that's neither here nor there. Vis-a-vis Greek mythology. Heat-sensitive papers, timeshares, hand jobs, and whatnot. Forevermore.
In the middle of Pearl's inane diatribe, the Watch Me tape reaches the end of its film and speedily rewinds itself. Eventually, Siren reawakens to find Pearl standing in the large wardrobe, half camouflaged by hanging clothes. She's staring at her and already singing very loudly. Startled, Siren sits bolt upright. Pearl leaps out of the wardrobe, clutches Siren's shoulders hard, and shakes her.
You fell asleep early in the viewing. I pour my heart out to you, and you take a cat nap.
I like a rubber ball, I come running back to you. Rubber ball, I come bouncing back to you.
Pearl releases Siren's shoulders and dramatically points to the door. Chuck scurries in, as if on cue, and sings backup.
You bounce my heart around. Like a rubber ball, like a running back. A rubber ball to you.
Pearl and Chuck, abreast and slightly swaying from side to side, sing the refrain in unison.
A rubber ball. Bouncy, 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 bouncy. A rubber ball. Bouncy, 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 bouncy.
Pearl and Chuck abruptly stop singing. They glare at Siren, expecting a round of applause. But Siren is scared and utterly confused. She instead rubs her sore shoulders. After a few seconds of awkward silence, Pearl and Chuck look at each other and disgustedly shake their heads. Chuck leaves the room. As Pearl closes the door, she continues to negatively shake her head with a face full of contempt and disgust. The door slams shut and locks. Siren weeps. After a few minutes, the door is unlocked. Pearl comes in with a dark brown bottle. She instructs Siren to take 2 or 3 big swallows. Siren shakes her head no.
I will make you drink it if I have to. You're sick. Now drink it.
Siren obeys and takes 3 long pulls from the mystery bottle. The room starts spinning and she plops down on her pillow. Siren awakens on a nameless beach at magic hour. She's wearing a clean flower-patterned swimsuit and is building a sandcastle about 30 feet from the shore. Tripod is sniffing around, nipping at nearby sand fleas and chasing seagulls. Tanya walks up to Siren carrying a fast food kids meal. She is in a pair of white capri pants, a baby blue blouse, and tan leather sandals. She has a drug-free and pleasant-looking visage. She lowers her designer sunglasses to look at Siren.
Hey, Si, here's your favorite meal. Cheeseburger, fries, and a toy.
Thanks, Mom. I love you.
I love you too, my precious little girl.
Happy, Siren smiles and giggles while looking into the bag.
Mommy?
Yeah, Si.
Siren feels around inside the bag.
Where's my toy?
Siren is now seated on the reading rug of her classroom at Virgil Robinson Elementary. She and the other students watch as Miss Salty, their teacher, reads a book about 2 ants who are lost in a kitchen.
The 2 ant brothers finally make it to the top of the counter, but then Louie, the fat cat, chases them. Who remembers what happens next?
All the kids raise their hands. Miss Salty chooses Siren.
They get stuck in a bowl of sugar.
Yes, that is correct, Siren. Good job.
Siren smiles proudly and the girls around her pat her on the arms in approval. Now Siren is at an amusement park. She's wearing a new pink blouse and girly denim shorts. Roller skates are on her feet and mouse ears are on her head. She has a blue cotton candy stick in her left hand and tripod's leash in her right. She stands in front of Dr. Frog's Weird Adventure ride, and the attendant motions for her to get into the car. Siren and Tripod board. The attendant releases the brake and off they go. Siren giggles and points out the great scenery to Tripod.
Look, Tripod.
Tripod barks at the Robotronic Honey Badger and Frog. The ride zigzags around through walls and opening doors. Fake barrels tip over as if to fall on the car. Siren shrieks and claps her hands in joy at the elaborate effects of the ride. A few feet before the car is a hedgehog constable holding a stop sign.
Don't go in there! Don't go in there! Don't go in there! Don't go in there!
The car proceeds to go in there. Siren is confused to see on the left a Robotronic version of Pearl serving food at the women's shelter. All smiles and cheer. The car continues further down the electric zigzagging track, and she sees another Robotronic Pearl, smiling and wild-eyed, using a huge meat cleaver to repeatedly cut off her own hand. The car advances and shakes down the path. Up ahead is another Robotronic Pearl, standing in front of her green outbuilding, in the middle of the tracks facing them. The car dead stops in front of her, and she reaches out and grabs the front of the car and shakes it violently. The Robotronic Pearl speaks to Siren in her human voice.
Don't go in there, Siren. Melvin isn't right.
I won't be able to protect you anymore.
Please, no, Siren, don't. You don't understand. He's the devil.
Moving forward, the car crushes the Robotronic Pearl and jerkily rebalances itself back down onto the track.
Lord Almighty, I'm coming, Artie.
It picks up speed and zooms into the doorway of a pitch-black outbuilding, and then suddenly comes to a complete stop. The light from outside of the building slightly illuminates Siren and Tripod with a blue hue. The loud sound of a roaring chainsaw buzzes, and male and female blood-curdling screams echo off the walls. She bear hugs Tripod for moral support. Then a hand strokes the back of her head. She looks up into the face of Melvin, full brony regalia, with big puppy dog eyes and his lips ripping through the stitches from the movement of his mouth. He speaks to Siren in Pearl's voice.
I told you he was evil. I told you not to come in here.
The car zooms on into the pitch blackness at breakneck speed. Now Siren finds herself standing in Pearl's basement with a lit candle set on an antique candlestick. From the limited flickering of the candle's flame, everything around her is blood red. The floor, the ceiling, the walls, everything. She walks, descending a downward slope, deeper and deeper into the basement, desperately calling out.
Hello? Is anybody here? Hello?
She trips on something, drops the candle, and the flame goes out. She gets up and walks farther in and bumps into what feels like punching bags or hanging meat. In total darkness, she continues to stumble over objects with her feet, even stepping on top of them to keep walking. She feels pressure from behind her like she's being crowded and pushed. Unseen things touching her shoulders and the back of her head and body. A lone hanging light bulb, situated on the ceiling's crossbeam, incredulously high, swings about 100 feet above her. It flickers on for about 5 seconds, displaying the view around her, which is 100+ people wearing clothes made from burlap sacks. Each person is about 20 feet tall, crowding around Siren. Some are standing and some are lying down, all facing in the same direction she is walking. And then the light goes off again for about 2 seconds. Because they are so tall, Siren, being a short little girl, doesn't understand what she's seeing and believes they must be part of the basement floor and walls, so she doesn't react. Then the bulb flickers on again, but for about 3 seconds. This time all of the people in the crowded room have their heads turned and are looking down at her with empty, vacuous features. Siren looks up and screams as she realizes these people creatures aren't part of the basement at all, and are what felt like hanging meat and what she has been tripping over. The light again goes off for about 2 seconds, then flickers on for about 5 seconds. While the light is on, all 100+ bodies are either standing, crawling, slithering, or hanging by their 12-foot surreal arms from the rafters. All still turned toward Siren, with their black gaping mouths issuing forth a very high-pitched dog whistle sound. The light goes out. She bumps into the wall and feels for a light switch. She finds one and flips it on. Siren is now sitting on the floor in the middle of the living room playing jacks. Tripod runs into the room, barks and licks her face. She giggles and hugs him. Tripod suddenly coughs and gags a couple of times.
What's wrong, Tripod? You okay, boy?
He coughs and hacks harder until his mouth opens as wide as it physically can. Then it continues to open, tearing and stretching its skin as a great anaconda emerges and rips through Tripod's mouth and head, mutilating the dog. Siren shrieks in horror and the anaconda slithers all around her, swiftly filling the room. At that moment, Siren wakes up in bed with a full-bodied jerk. She is soaking in sweat and breathing rapidly. Her alarm clock reads 2 a.m., and as a daddy long-legged spider scurries across her stomach, she hears scratching outside of her door. Already traumatized by her never-ending nightmare, she just pulls the covers over her head and doesn't make a sound until morning.